In an unexpected change of heart, the father of a former FSB officer poisoned in London in 2006 has backtracked on his accusations that the then Russian President Vladimir Putin was responsible for his son's death. Walter Litvinenko described his claims as lies driven by hatred, saying he didn't know that his son Alexander worked for British intelligence. RTE's Ekaterina Gracheva went to meet him.
This is how we found Walter Litvinenko, praying in his tiny Italian apartment. No electricity, no gas, no hot water.
If it wasn't for the help of various people, I would have died from hunger or frozen to death. The last time I took a bath was on Christmas.
We expected more, because 6 years ago, after his son, former FSB officer Alexander Litvinenko, was poisoned in London, he was taken care of by some very powerful patrons, like self-exiled tycoon Boris Berezovsky and Ahmed Zakayev, a notorious former Chechen militant, both hiding in the UK.
Если ты видишь, Путин, смотри, это мой брат, Ахмед Закаев. Я теперь тоже экстремист, я уже тоже террорист. Жди меня, я приеду в Россию. Убей меня, Путин.
When Walter Litvinenko sent a letter asking to be interviewed by Russian television, we expected more of the same. But instead...
Vladimir Vladimirovich, if you're watching this program, please forgive me for all the slander that I said and wrote about you, for all the hatred I had for you. If only I had known my son worked for British intelligence, I would not talk about his death. He could have easily been shot as a double agent. Betrayers should be shot. What else can I add to this?
The U-turn, Walter says, came when his son's widow, Marina Litvinenko, revealed to the British media that her husband had worked for MI6. Further details followed when a newspaper launched its own investigation.
Alexander Litvinenko was receiving a retainer of around £2,000 a month from the British security services at the time he was murdered. It's understood that Sir John Scarlett, now the head of MI6 and once based in Moscow, was involved in recruiting him to the secret intelligence service.
At first, Walter Litvinenko, like many others, claimed his son had been poisoned with polonium-210 on Putin's order. The former FSB officer and fierce critic of the Kremlin, Alexander Litvinenko, spent 23 days in a London clinic, slowly dying from a toxic substance possibly consumed through a cup of tea. Even before police in London started questioning suspects, the victim's father was actively accusing the Russian government. Today, Walter admits he was saying only what the West wanted to hear.
Of course, I realize Russia's FSB are not idiot enough to take polonium to London, sprinkle it over some heads and leave traces everywhere. And their suspect, Andrei Lugovoy, is not a fool either. It was anger and blind hatred speaking inside of me.
Walter now believes his son fell victim to his own game of double agents. Now he wants his words to be heard, but the media outside Russia, which once beat down his door for interviews, now won't even reply to his requests. And why?
Because they like it when I scold the regime. I was a real treasure for them. There are very few people who would say as many horrible things about Putin as I did.
In 2008, Walter Litvinenko fled Russia for sanctuary in Italy. He settled in the sleeping, quiet town of Senigallia. It offered a new anonymous life. The man claimed Putin was his #1 enemy, so hiding in Europe he believed was the only safe solution. Today, Walter Litvinenko is still afraid to open this door. Not because of Putin, though, but because of his landlord, to whom he owes a lot of money. This miserable life has made him a slave of his sanctuary.
Walter Litvinenko sold everything he had in Russia to come to Italy. He opened a small business several years ago, but it went bankrupt. Things got worse when the 73-year-old had buried his wife. Walter now fears her casket could be removed because he hasn't paid the cost of a burial plot. And it's been months since the electricity was shut off to his flat. His last 40 euros went on a gas canister. And that is gone too.
This is how I warm myself. I opened this door to let the southern wind inside. There is East and there's Russia, my homeland. I want to go home to Russia. I don't want to stay here.
Ekaterina Gracheva, RT, Senigalia, Italy.